Hello, Dutch University applicants. Today we're going to talk about Erasmus University colleges, admissions, personal statement. The letter of motivation is released. The topics. So here it is. For those of you who didn't find it before, check out this URL right up here. You see, and you click on motivation letter, and then it gives you this document 2021, so we know that is the right one. I'm gonna go ahead and download this thing, open her up. Okay, so what you all are gonna do, the first thing is you download this. It's a Word file, docx file. You're going to immediately cut and paste it into a Google Doc. To work on all personal statements for world universities, you always do it through Google Doc. So once this thing comes up, it just takes a minute. And here we have it. So you see here we have the boxes and stuff. What I want you to do, you're going into Google Drive. You're going to make a new doc. You're going to call it, under our naming conventions, right? Personal statement, yeah, underscore Ian, underscore Lally, underscore EUC, okay? So that's gonna be how you're gonna name your stuff. So then what I'm gonna do is cut this, take it, copy it, plop it over here. Oh, there we go. Next one over here, same thing, copy, paste. Don't matter, that thing's fine, good. Number 3, optional, but just like in the US, most things that are optional are actually not optional, so we actually think you should do optional. There. Now, of course, we have this, beginning of it. This should guide how you write and what you write about. Okay, so now we have the document set up. You're not going to work on this document anymore until you're completely done. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Leave that to the side. Now for the next 2 weeks, you're going to be working on this document. So in addition to your academic record, we take your motivation to study liberal arts and sciences and your interest in consideration when evaluating our program as a likely match for you. So those of you who did the last webinar, which UBC had was our example, now we're getting a little bit more specifically into the Dutch University College idea of why us, and particularly why liberal arts and sciences. So while in the last example, and for those of you who have also applied to the UK, you're supposed to prove in both Canada and UK why it is you want to study what you want to study. But in the Netherlands, you're actually trying to prove, yes, why you want to study your specific subject, but why you also want to study other things. You have to make the argument about why you want to study other things. So a good example is, let's take a student who's trying to go to EUC, Erasmus University College, for business, because they have a business program. Well, that's fine. You're going to write a little bit about business in here, but you have to write about why you also want to take a class in philosophy, take a class in psychology, take a class in science. Liberal arts and sciences in Dutch University College is a interdisciplinary education. If you spend too much time talking about your intended major, you're not going to be able to prove the most important point of going to a Dutch University College, which is to study liberal arts and sciences. That is really the difference between what someone would write for UBC and what someone would write for Erasmus University College or Utrecht or Maastricht or any of the other university colleges in the Netherlands. Many of the applications will look very similar to this. Tilburg's questions are usually similar to this. Utrecht, Leiden. Amsterdam has a very different application, but the proof is still the same. Okay, so no matter what the questions are here, we're going to prove that we're a good fit for liberal arts and sciences in a small learning environment. So the first thing is, what makes you a good candidate for pursuing a liberal arts and sciences degree? Yeah. And then why do you want to study liberal arts and sciences at Erasmus University College? Okay, so these are two questions that are pretty straightforward. Okay? So you don't really want to actually answer the questions. Yeah? What you actually want to do is start down here. Remember, those of you who did the webinar for Canada, Other World Universities, already know that you wrote some notes about what it is you want to prove. So the two things are why EUC what I want to study and what I want to study outside my major. And Y and L, why the Netherlands. And then show NITO, small learning environment, Harkness. Hopefully spelled it correctly. Harkness. So, I want in-class specific examples. You should have in-class specific examples of why you are a good fit for a small learning environment. Okay? And we'll spell those correctly. Because what they're saying here is Erasmus University College is a small learning environment, right? So NITO is a small learning environment. So what about going to NITO makes you a better fit for Dutch University College than your competition, which is mostly German kids coming from German local public schools with 40 kids in a class, teacher up at the board, kids in the back not paying attention. Okay, they're trying to prove why they want to have a different environment, why they're trying to go to EUC to have these small roundtable discussions, right? But we do that every day. That is what we experience. So you have to paint the picture of you at NITO. Don't tell, show. So what do I mean by that? Don't say, we have tables in our classrooms that are round where we have discussions. That is telling. Showing is in our Harkness-based classroom discussion on Thoreau in philosophy class, we had a discussion around minimalism and its value to the human condition and experience. I made the argument that, so on and so forth. Another student made the argument counter to mine of this, and this was our debate. It changed my mind about how I viewed Thoreau's philosophy. I want to continue to have this type of stimulating intellectual classroom environment, etc., etc. That's really the difference between showing and telling. A lot of people give me a lot of telling, and I need showing. Yeah, we want to have an experience that encapsulates what the picture we're trying to paint. So the Dutch universities know exactly what a NITO classroom looks like, because NITO is in Chile and Netherlands does not visit. Netherlands universities do not visit South America, so they don't really have an accurate picture of what our classroom looks like. So you have to show them what it looks like. I have visited all these Dutch university colleges that you guys are applying to, and all of their classrooms look exactly like NITO classrooms. Usually a U-shaped or a round table where the professor has discussion-based, a problem-based, Socratic method, whatever it is that they use at your university. And you have to show that we have the same environment, okay? Super, super important. So what makes you a successful candidate for pursuing liberal arts and sciences? This is, I want to study business, but I'm also interested in physics. This is, I'm interested in medicine, but I'm also interested in literature. If you say, I want to go to EUC because it'll give me a great foot to start my own business one day, not your best argument for why liberal arts and sciences. Okay, so it's really quite an opposite proof of the UK, because UK you're trying to argue for single subject. In the Netherlands, you're trying to say, yes, I'm interested in this single subject, but I'm also interested in these other things: sociology, the core, learning Dutch. Remember, each university college has their own curriculum. Okay, the worst thing you could possibly do in a Dutch university essay is put down this: you want to study something that they don't have at their school. It's the worst thing. Surefire way of getting yourself rejected from a Dutch university college is saying, I want to go to Utrecht because they have the Global Challenges program. For any of you who've done your research, Utrecht does not have the Global Challenges program. Leiden does. You're automatically rejected from Utrecht if you say things like that. So you have to be school specific and do your homework about the university program and why you want to go there. Okay? 2 very important points. Okay? Next, optional. What additional information would like admissions officers to know about you considering your application? Okay, those of you who've done a US application, this is the additional information section. Those of you new to that process, this would be anything that unusual circumstances, like you changed schools in 11th grade, like you moved countries, like you had a dip in your education because you got sick, or that you were a national plan student and you had to take certain classes. Anything there would be appropriate or fine to put down. But then look at the second part of this question. Think of an extracurricular activities that you have participated in that you contribute to your motivation, qualification, or life experiences that may have affected your situation. So life experiences that may have affected your situation, that's just a part of this additional information thing. But this extracurricular is one. This is the one that a lot of you will write towards and should write towards. Now they just say contribute to your motivation and qualification, right? This life experiences could also be, Noah's Week Without Walls, could also be family trip to Machu Picchu, could be an internship, right? Qualification and motivation. Qualification means why you're a good fit for these 2 other programs, right? So let's say you participate in an extracurricular activity like GIN, Global Issues Network. How does that contribute to your motivation qualification? Well, if you're applying to Leiden University College for the Global Challenges, GIN works pretty well, Now, let's have a less obvious example. Let's say you're applying to Erasmus University College for business, and you want to prove that because you're the captain of the basketball team, you have good management skills that'll help you in business. Okay, that's fine, but also you don't have to necessarily link it to your career interest, because remember, you're going for liberal arts and sciences, so you don't want to overstate your interest in business, a single subject. Instead, going for the more leadership aspect or teamwork, collaboration, especially international collaboration. How many passports do we have on the basketball team? How many languages are spoken? Have you gone to a SAC and represented your school? Do you plan on participating in athletics or sports at Erasmus University College? Those are the things that they're talking about. This is what we would call, I'm bringing up again from the upper webinar, is a value to campus argument. What is your value to the EUC campus, to the Utrecht campus, to the Leiden campus, to the Amsterdam campus? What is your value? What are you bringing to the table in a school, right? A school within a school that only has between 250 and 1,000 students, right? So when we talk about value to campus, it's what you do here at NITO that then is going to add value to the Leiden campus, to the Utrecht campus, right? And showing rather than telling, right? So showing yourself at an international competition with 2 seconds left on the clock and you're speaking 3 languages to communicate with your teammates, that shows your, internationalism. That shows how you're collaborating, solving problems on the basketball court, just like you're going to do that in the EUC classroom. That's just an example, but it's how we take these small little words that they're putting in here and translate them into value statements about, yes, what you value and why, but much more about, what you value and why you're going to bring that value to the EUC campus, to the Utrecht campus, etc. Okay? So what I like students to do, as I said in the other webinar, is you write some things about yourself, about what I talked about, and then you look back here and say, where should I put it? Because these basically are the same 3 questions in a row, right? But you want to prove something different each time. They should learn something new about you with each response. So don't just be satisfied with putting down the same kind of tell answer for each 3 ones. Push yourself to go beyond the obvious, right? I used an example in class today of someone who wrote a personal statement about them living in Rio and having to move out of Rio because of destabilization, of the gang situation there. And they wrote that. They said, because of destabilization of the gang situation, I had to move out of Rio. And I said, okay, well, but show me what happened. Like, what is your one moment experience that encapsulates what you mean by I had to leave Rio? And the kid said, well, one time we had to hide in the bathtub because rival gangs were shooting up our apartment building. Like, is that what you mean? Yes, that's what I mean, right? You want to show what you meant by your statement. So by telling I had to leave Rio because of, unstable gang warfare, that doesn't really show me what you're talking about. But showing me how you and your mom had to hide in a bathtub while rival gangs were shooting at each other, now I understand what you've actually been through. Now I get it. Now I can see that picture, right? One is just telling me I had to leave because of destabilization. I'm like, okay, I don't really know what that means, right? Showing me that you had to hide in a bathtub because rival gangs were shooting at each other. Now I got a picture. Now I can see that. I can see you in that bathtub, right? It's a little bit of an extreme example, but it applies to everything, right? Don't just say I was captain of the basketball team, right? Show the moment. With 2 seconds left on the clock, you called the play. You said it in Korean to your other friend, and then in Spanish to your other friend, and then in English to your third friend, and you passed the ball around, made the shot, won the game. Right? Don't just say I got first place and led my team to first place in sack competition. Okay, well, what does that look like? What does that smell like? What does that feel like? I don't know. But the other example where you say 2 seconds left on the clock, right? This is what I did. This is what I did. That's showing your leadership ability. You don't have to say I'm a leader. I look at it. I see it. I can see the picture of you being a leader. So that's the difference between showing and telling. Definitely in the Netherlands, we want show. That's a big, all across the world, because your competition from Europe will largely do a lot of telling. But if you're showing, now you're going to increase your probability of getting accepted to university. Okay? So those are some tips about letters of motivation for university colleges, using Erasmus as an example. Remember, this is not a letter. You do not need to write dear at the beginning of it or have any sort of letter format. It's a personal statement. They just call it letter of motivation. Now, what about this motivation thing? They're big into what motivates you to study. And that's like a bit of a sort of Dutch translation, but really, why do you want to go to a program that has an entry requirement? Like, why do you want to go to a program that has a dorm? Why do you want to go to a program that has small learning classroom environment? The reason why they're asking you these things, for you, it might be like, well, I've always wanted to go to school like that. That's what NITO is. But your competition does not go to places like that. Your competition, locally, mostly from German public schools, have to prove why they are motivated to go to an environment that is like NITO for university. You don't necessarily have to prove that. You just have to show what NITO is, show that that environment motivates you, and show that that environment is going to motivate you at university. Does that make sense? Because the Netherlands, most of the programs are kind of like Chile. You take your test, you take your exams, you get your score, you go where you go. No letters of recommendation, no essays. It's automatic, just like Chile would be, right? Or Australia, for example. But these university colleges, you have to do a lot of stuff in order to get in. You have to write a personal statement, do a CV, maybe have an interview, right? So it's a big deal in Dutch society to apply to these types of universities. Our students apply to these universities because they're a good fit match for us, right? But we have to prove it. We have to prove that they're a good fit match for us. So that's what they mean by motivation. Like, what motivates you past what, just signing your name and going to a university automatically would be like. So that gives you a little background history for those of you who don't really know about the whole Dutch high school thing. Little helpful tips about what that motivation thing is. But really, what we talk about, what you value and why you want this liberal arts, focus in on that. Sometimes this motivation word can trip kids up, and it can be hard to think about what motivates you. That's why value statements usually hold up, and they say that is why you're motivated to do it. At the same time, if you feel like the motivation word really speaks to you, use that. But I always tell students to make sure that you first outline what it is you want to talk to them about, what it is you want to show them rather than tell, and then put it into these statements here. Right? So you got 300 words. The optional one doesn't look like there's much of a limit, but I usually keep it to about 100, 150, maximum 300, because I don't think they have a word count there. On there, they might have a word count in the boxes. We'll see. Okay, so what happens when you're done? When you're done, you've gone back and forth with your university counselor 3 times about your, with your drafts, if you need it. You're gonna cut and paste your response. So let's just pretend this is my response. I'm gonna cut and paste it back into the document. Make sure you reformat. You'll have to reformat. When it looks good, you're going to follow the instructions on the website. Do not assume how you do this thing, right? Do not assume. And then we look at the admissions and application here. Go to our application procedure. We're going to click on that. There we go. Motivation letter. Menu following on that. Likely what you will have to do, start your EUC application. Let's see what it does. There you go. Now it takes us to study link. Okay, so you're likely going to save this as a PDF, upload it to your Erasmus application once it opens. At the moment, it doesn't seem open, but that's going to be the process. So cut and paste back into here once you've done it on the Google Doc, save as a PDF, upload it. That's going to be your last process. This is for Erasmus only. Each university college has their own personal statement, but many of them are very similar to this. Next time, we'll talk about World Letter of Recommendation request forms.